And then as far as, I mean, I think that you kind of alluded to this with their diet being so variable and whatnot, and this probably plays to their intelligence, but just their natural history, their native range that they live in, it just seems like it's just whatever, it's pretty variable. Broad. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's another thing I talk about it at great length in the book is, are these things generalists or are these things specialists? Because, they're specialists, they're habitat specialists that are dietary generalists, which is just crazy. Like that happens and it doesn't happen at the same time. So basically what they need in South America is water. If there's somewhat permanent water, Hydrodynastes will be there.
As far as the water feature in captivity, I mean, in the book, there's some beautiful pictures of incredible enclosures. So when people buy the book, they'll be able to see those. But what do you do? Like, for example, the ones that are behind you or in your office, what do you do for a water feature?
So due to the fact that they will defecate in their water, and when an 8-foot false water cobra goes to the bathroom, it's equivalent to a small dog crapping. The idea of having filters and pumps and things like that, it's a little bit dangerous, because if they go to the bathroom and they clog a filter, they might, clog the intake tube. But if it's coming out of a sump, it's going to keep pumping in, and the next thing you know, you have an overflow. Yeah. So what I've done is a lot of dump and fill. So I use rather large bus bins. And then they will soak in those, and then they go to the bathroom. And then I try to dump and fill, at bare minimum once a week if they don't defecate in it. But if they defecate in the water, it's pretty much instant because it smells. So if you don't get rid of the fecal material, it's going to smell. And my office, for the record, has a bit of notoriety for being the smelly one because of all the large snakes that live in it. But there are people that have actually, in my opinion, gone well beyond me and built small room enclosures and then built pools off of the small enclosures. There's a young woman named Anki, who I believe she's in Belgium.
Yeah.
Who has, in my opinion, the ultimate false water cobra enclosure. And she actually has built into it a 70-gallon aquarium that's decked out with vegetation, and she posts all the time her false water cobra swimming and investigating things underwater, which has always made me think and devise, how the hell am I going to do that?
Yeah.
So
it is a crazy enclosure. Like when you look at that thing, you're like, wow, that looks like a zoo. Maybe I'll see if I can contact her and get those photos thrown into the video, because I've seen her post on Facebook too, and it's that is an amazing thing. So if you're somebody who wants to dig into a massive project, this is a perfect species.
It's perfect species.
If you're someone that's not quite thinking they can handle that, this is like a way too much going on.
And what we've done here at the school in particular is, this is where the breeders are kept. And I have the large females, or what I keep in my office, but we have a large walk-in enclosure in one of our classrooms. It's 8 feet long, about 5 feet deep, and about 8 feet tall. So it's a pretty large space. And we do cohab the false water cobras. And so we have our male breeders in that particular enclosure. And one of the things that I find quite endearing about false water cobras is they're a large, heavy-bodied snake. Almost all of the records from nature of this animal that are published anyway are from the animal basically being on the ground or in water. But our males almost daily will go up. And there's been plenty of times that I've walked into that classroom and looked in it. It was initially for the university sloth. So that ought to give you an idea of, what this cage or enclosure was built for initially. And you'll see, one male false water cobra up to the top left, and then another male false water cobra off to the right. And they go up and down through those branches all throughout the day. So if you're looking for a snake that, if you want to build a real impressive enclosure, to have a real impressive animal that uses the enclosure, this is definitely a taxa that kind of checks all those boxes.
Yeah, absolutely. And one more question about just husbandry in general that I picked up from the book is the superworms. That's something that I've not heard of. So can you describe that?
Sure. So one issue, I every time I'm on any kind of podcast talking about false water cobras, it seems like at least 20% of the podcast is spent talking about their poop. Because it is absolutely